Are we live? I think we live. I think we live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Hotep History Live. I am your host, President Hotep Dubes, representing Hotep Nation. I hope you guys have had an amazing day. Hope you have learned something. I know I have. Let's see. I think we good now. There we go. Now we on Kick. So apparently I got to start on YouTube and then started on Kick. We still on Kick, just working on some kinks. Don't even trip. We here. Just got to make sure that everything is in working order. So thank you guys so much for tapping in. This is episode what 27, I want to say, episode 27. So thank you guys for tapping in. Come on in here. Come on in here. Tap in. Join the stream. Join the stream. You're necessary. You're needed in here. You are. You're absolutely needed in here. And so I hope you guys have had a tremendous, amazing day. I know I have. I hope you learned something. I know I have. You know, it's a great day. So I'm just going to run a couple. I got to, look at a couple things real quick just to make sure that we coming in clear. Am I coming in clear, mother? Yeah. We in there. So check this out. Things are going swimmingly over here at Hotep Studios, man. I'm trying to tell y'all. I have been able to glow up this channel, this platform, and the things that I've been putting out there at high levels. I really appreciate what's been going down as far as just the back channels and stuff that I've been working on behind the scenes. Extremely excited. Before we get too far into the program, make sure that you're subscribing to all of the places. Patreon.com/Hotep History. Making sure you're following us on TikTok, Hotep History. IG. I just recently started an IG, so make sure you're following on Instagram. If you guys are one of those people who are more partial to Instagram than Twitter, we on there too. We taking over all platforms. Okay, so make sure you're doing all of the things, your likes, your subscribes, all of that type of stuff. If you guys are wondering why I have migrated over to Kick, and this is just, I'm giving you guys just a buffer period for today. I was just thinking about it. I will be reconfiguring to make sure that I will be only exclusively streaming on Kick. Today I had to do YouTube as well. That's something that I didn't know until like literally 2 minutes ago. So check it out. We working through it. Thank you guys for tapping in. So I'll be going back and forth between the YouTube and the Kick stream as far as the chat. So make sure you're sending the chats and stuff like that. I want to hear from you guys. Today is going to be a special show. So, like we always do, we talk about our day. You know what I'm saying? We in both Memphis tonight. And tonight only, we're going to be doing both just because I want to give people a buffer period, and I got to reconfigure on my end to make sure that it's only going to the Kick. I tried to do Kick only tonight, and it said that I needed to do something with some encoders. So once, I'll get that stuff done between tonight and tomorrow stream, and then we'll be able to make sure that, it's just Kick. So this will be honestly a good, buffer time for you guys to understand that we are moving to Kick. So this is a great announcement. I said it on Twitter, but I'm saying it now on YouTube as well. So we'll be able to, make sure that we're migrating completely over to Kick. I'm excited. But as far as my day, I'm gonna let y'all know some, chat. I have been running on fumes for, I want to say, the greater part of 2 weeks right now. We're talking, and all of the hours that 2 weeks bring, I probably gotten a fraction of the sleep that I'm supposed to get. And I'm not gonna lie, while I was able to get stuff done during those hours, the body is a machine, man, and you got to be able to make sure your machine is resting. So I went to sleep at a nice hour last night, and I slept for damn near 10 hours straight. Like, that's how much sleep that I was depriving myself of. So happy to report that I'm well rested, doing the same thing tonight. It's very important that you guys get your rest. It's important for your mind, it's important for your muscle, and it's important for your money. You have to be able to get some rest. It's extremely important. That's what I've been told over the past, month or so, and I'm really, really, honing in on getting some rest. So for all of you insomniacs out there, for all of you people that burn the midnight oil way too far past how much you're supposed to be burning, make sure you're getting rest. So I started the day refreshed. Started the day very refreshed. Did my little, morning workout that I do, my calisthenics, right? Your push-ups, your sit-ups, hitting the dumbbells and stuff like that. Just being able to, do that. And then, of course, just things that I've been learning pertaining to Black American history. I'm happy to announce. She's got a lot of announcements today. This is how you know the productivity is through the roof. I've officially found my co-host for the Hotep History Podcast. You dig what I'm saying? So the Hotep History Podcast will be coming every Saturday afternoon at 12 p.m. Every Saturday afternoon at 12 p.m. on Spaces, Twitter Spaces. And then that will live on Patreon after we record it. So you definitely want to subscribe to the Patreon so you can get to the Hotep History Podcast. It will be a Patreon exclusive. After we record it on Spaces, it will not be on the timeline. So if you want to listen back to it, especially if you were a part of it, I know a lot of y'all are like me. When you are participating in the Spaces, you like to hear yourself back to be able to make sure that you wasn't saying a bunch of bullshit, and then you just want to be able to enjoy the conversation. After we're finished on Spaces, it'll be going directly to the Patreon. So make sure that you guys are subscribing to the Patreon because that's where it will live. Shout out to my brother Mac, who was my co-host every Saturday at 12 p.m. Every Saturday at 12 p.m. Amazing things. My brand consultant has given me so much information about Hotep history and the things that this brand needs. And when I tell y'all this plan that I have, this outline that I have is incredible, and I'm excited to be able to implement them and have been implementing them. And that's the reason why we are, going off like gangbusters, man. Going off like gangbusters. Extremely happy, extremely satisfied with their work so far. I cannot wait, because one of the things that is super dope about this is, like, as your profile grows, as your brand grows, so does their strategies. If you have a good brand consultant, they're going to first and foremost do an analysis on your brand, see where you're strong, see where you're weak, the opportunities and things that you can actually implement when it comes to your brand. And then as you grow your profile and as you grow your brand, they're going to be hitting you with more and more updated strategies to be able to help grow the brand. So shout out to my brand consultant all the way, doing a tremendous job. Extremely proud of the work that we'll be able to do together. And it's only the beginning. We're going to be here for a long time. Hotep history is here to stay. You guys have been super, super dope in your support of me and the things that you guys say to me about, keep going, Hotep, Prez, or whatever you guys call me. I really do appreciate it. So I just wanted to start the stream as we always do, just giving encouragement, gratitude for the life that we're living so far. Let me know about y'all day. Hope you guys had a productive day. So, let me know how y'all day was. Like I said, I'm going back and forth between here and Kick, so don't trip. I'm going to see all of the comments. Even this spam comment that's in my Kick right now. So it's all good. I got to figure out how to delete comments and stuff like that. But so today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about Black American fraternal orders and Black American mutual aid societies. Some of them are the same. Some of them are independent of each other, unfortunately. And this is something that you are going to have to deal with as a researcher of American history. The Library of Congress website, which is one of the places that I get my primary sources from, is down. It's a bummer, because the newspapers that I bring up on stream or that you see me post on Twitter, it comes from the Library of Congress. And the site is down, unfortunately, but don't worry, don't fret. We got plenty of material that we're going to be able to go over tonight. Another thing that I've been honing in on is not being all over the place as it pertains to our, streams and stuff like that. I want to keep it concise in our conversations. Earlier episodes, I was jumping from, agriculture to entrepreneurship to family to schooling, to just inventions or inventors. So we was just jumping around. Now I'm going to be more concise in the episodes and stuff like that. And one of the things that I do like about this stuff is that I could just be transparent with you guys, that I could just talk to you guys, just casually. So we're going to be doing a lot more. We're going to be implementing things to where you guys can, be a part of the conversation. The book club is definitely coming for September. So get ready for that. If you guys are interested in, joining the Hotep History Book Club, again, patreon.com/Hotep History. We're going to be having these discussions not only on Patreon, but of course, after the book is done or after the chapter is done, we'll have these discussions on stream as well. And I really want you guys to, really be a part of the Hotep History universe. We have so much stuff, and I'm pretty sure we're eventually going to do merch. So you guys will have another way to be able to support the channel and be able to support me. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys are getting your super chats on and all of that other stuff, because I'm telling y'all, this is here to stay, and it's going to be huge. So the reason why Black American fraternal orders and mutual aid societies are extremely important is because when you understand Black American history the way I do, you understand that further and further you get away from the ancestral Black American ethos, the more you get into, like I said, being a dependent consumer. So instead of you being an independent, self-reliant producer, you've turned yourself into a dependent consumer. And the ancestors were not built like that. The ancestors have always been built upon self-reliance, self-governance, self-sufficiency, and being able to do for self and help self. And that self growing. So you have your individual self, and then you have the self that is your community, then the self that is your city, the self that is your state, and then the self that is your American identity. And all of those things, in every one of those levels, you want to be able to make sure that you're servicing yourself. And that is exactly what the ancestors stood for. They understood that nobody is coming to save us. They understood that if we're not going to do it, no one is. They understood that they need to be able to rely on one another within the self that is called the community. And that took, intention. You had to intentionally go to your meetings. You had to intentionally do the work. You had to intentionally build these things. And this has been a thing for Black America since the 1700s, since the 18th century. And so when it comes down to the very beginning of Black American mutual aid societies, we have this right here. So hopefully that loads up. And because I want y'all to know that there is a slight difference between the Freemasonic lodges and stuff like that and the Black fraternal orders. They're kind of synonymous in general. Why is it not loading up? It's kind of synonymous in general, but there are some, dissimilarities there. And so, starting off, of course, you're going to have the Prince Hall Freemasonry and stuff like that. But you also had the Free African Society. And one of the things that I appreciate about episode 5, here we go. One of the things that I love about episode 5 that is coming out, we dabble into that, because a big part of the upper class were a part of the fraternal orders and the Freemason groups and stuff like that. You may even have, some family members that's a Freemason and stuff like that. The history goes back really, really far. So you guys understand that this is something, again, that these people, created to be able to look out for Black Americans. Some of the first schools for Black Americans were built by your Black American fraternal orders and Freemasons. The first insurance companies and things like that were created by these fraternal orders, even banks. So one of the things that I've noticed was a through line between the history of Black American financial institutions. If you want to talk about the Independent Order of St. Luke, which then of course is the precursor to the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. Shout out to Maggie Lee Walker. So these groups were very integral in Black American progress. So the Free African Society is one of the very early mutual aid societies for Black Americans. And let's get into this article and then we'll jump on back to the Twitter. So it says, after Richard Allen secured his freedom, he was a circuit preacher and attended meetings in Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. When Allen came to Philadelphia in 1786, he was approached by the minister of St. George's United Methodist Church to preach to the small number of African Americans who attended. It was here that Allen met with Absalom Jones, a former worshiper at St. Peter's Episcopal Church. The two men, along with other Black community leaders, talked about forming their own religious society. However, since they came from many different backgrounds and religions, they instead formed the Free African Society in 1787. So again, you're gonna see some intersection between these societies, these orders, and the church. A lot of these guys come from, Christian backgrounds and things like that. So again, when we were talking about the moral grounding of Black America in the last stream, it is going to be largely divinity, God, that is guiding their morals, and being able to look out for your fellow man has been translated as an order from God with a lot of these groups, with a lot of these organizations. All right. So among the first organizations of its kind in America, the Free African Society's main goal was to provide aid to newly freed Blacks so that they can gather strength and develop leaders in the community. The society soon became too large to meet in Richard Allen's house, and its meetings moved to the Quaker African Schoolhouse. In 1789, the society more closely aligned itself with the Quaker faith, and its meetings began to mimic Quaker services. That prompted Allen, who was a Methodist, and many who were loyal to him, to leave the organization. So in episode 5, which is obviously coming out very soon, I talk about Absalom Jones. I talk about all of these. I just list, a bunch of these different societies. I should have written them down for tonight's stream, but it's okay. Episode 5 is coming out. So let's see. It says to top Absalom Jones on the in the inscription on the left, it reads, driven out by the acts of white Methodists, he and others formed St. Thomas Episcopal Church and was its first minister. Boom. So yeah. So going back to my page here, I'm going to go to the bookmarks. This is from 1899, and I want to show y'all just how dope the mutual aid societies were in Black America. Super dope. So this is from an article that I clipped, and they're speaking about the mutual aid society. This was in, I want to say, Indianapolis. This was in. So the title of the article is Free Medical Attention. Okay. Says Mr. Percy Jones, the general manager of the American Mutual Aid Association, called at our office this week and informed us that his company had completed arrangements to supply policyholders in Indianapolis with medical and surgical attention absolutely free of charge. Hereafter, any member of the American Mutual Aid Association who meets with an accident or is taken sick may call for the company's physician, who will attend all members free of charge. The policies of the American Mutual Aid Association pay weekly benefits for both sickness and accidental injuries. Also benefits for death, either from accidental injuries or sickness. So before we go any further, I want y'all to know just how dope that is. I really want to just take a second to really describe why this is super dope. Because when it comes down to us not being able to rely on external parties, the fact that Black Americans in 1899 were providing free health care to one another speaks volumes, especially since you'll have a lot of people in the contemporary sense demand that America in general provide free healthcare, federal, free healthcare. Now, I've heard the debate and stuff like that, and you'll have people who say that, technically America already does because, the emergency room exists and stuff like that, and they're not going to turn you down and all of that. But when we're talking about on the private level, we were already providing free healthcare to one another. Not only free healthcare, but free surgeries. If you were to hurt yourself on the job, you had an accident, a car accident, or anything like that, you could go to your local mutual aid society, open up a policy. You have to pay into it because, these things have to be upheld or whatever. But then at your beck and call, you had a physician that would make house calls. They would come to you, or you would go to them, and you wouldn't have to pay out of pocket for any of the health care that you got. That's amazing. And the fact that they were able to do this in 1899 with much more limited funds than we have today, imagine if we created more mutual aid societies that were able to provide these services. I think about Black Guns Matter in the Solutionary Center, in the Solutionary 9, where the services that Maj Touré and Black Guns Matter provides are absolutely free. And that's the reason why he goes so hard about the donations. It's fueled by the people. And I don't think a lot of people understand just how important that is. When we start talking about discretionary income, disposable income, imagine if everybody within your orbit were able to take a fraction of their paycheck every 2 weeks, every week, every month, or however you're paid, and be able to, donate to Black Guns Matter, King Randall's School for Boys, right? And seeing how those services being rendered in the community are now growing and expanding to where now more and more people are knowing how to handle, clear, and shoot a firearm. More and more people are knowing how to, administer aid after a gunshot. More and more people are learning about, de-escalation, imminent threat, and all these other courses that Black Guns Matter provides. Likewise with King Randall. If just half of Black America, a quarter of Black America spent 5% of their paycheck donating to King Randall School, he would be able to have a nationwide campus. He would be able to spread his entire movement, his entire education program among the entire country. And we all know that King Randall, he has programs that are for like practical life lessons, changing oil, painting the house, renovating the inside of the house. He has a chicken coop, for God's sake. Like, all of these different programs, if people would just, make a concerted effort like the ancestors did when it came down to the mutual aid societies, you'll see the change that you want to see in the world. You don't have to wait for the government. We talked about this on Monday's stream when we were talking about Reverend Henry Mitchell and his disagreement with Martin Luther King, petitioning the federal government to intervene in Black American affairs. And one of the things that people like Reverend Henry Mitchell understand is that once you get the federal government involved, it's going to be very, very difficult to get them out of your business. And then at that point, of course, you're screwed, because they're going to want to run the program. They're going to be the ones to want to, call the shots and stuff like that. And since you're relying on their aid, you're relying on their money. Well, not really their money. It's really your money, but, you're relying on these different things. They're not going to acquiesce the way you want. And then you're going to end up having to acquiesce the way that they want. Now, when it came down to Mr. Percy Sohn in the Mutual Aid Association of America, or the American Mutual Aid Association, they were able to call the shots. They're able to say, no, we have a physician on retainer. Due to the amount of money that we get from our policyholders, we're able to pay him privately, and he can go around to all of the different policyholders and administer aid and administer health care. Imagine you being able to invest in a particular organization all year round, every month, letting your dollar speak for you. And then something happens, God forbid, and you have a doctor on call coming to your home. You're getting a surgery for literally free, absolutely free. These are the things that Black Americans, as far as the historical context is concerned, this is what they wanted. See, the thing is, when it comes to the ancestors, they just wanted the government out of their way. That's it. Don't impede on my progress. Don't impede on my growth. Don't impede on my advancement. So it's extremely important to understand where you come from. So many people walk around here demanding things from the government, even though the government is the entity why, or the reason why you need what you need, or your community has been disenfranchised the way it has. So when you're relying on your neighbor as opposed to the government, you are now dealing in high trust society. You are now dealing with somebody that you can actually touch and feel, as far as, like, you know, because the government is just an entity made up of a bunch of people who are far removed from the average American life. And that's no matter what race. The average white politician has absolutely no idea what the average white American is going through. The average black politician doesn't know what the average black American is going through. Especially when it pertains to the black, white, Asian, Hispanic Americans under or beneath the poverty line. These groups were created for those people. The monthly dues were never too expensive. The amount of aid that you got as a result of your monthly dues and stuff like that was heads and shoulders above anything that you would see coming from the government, because these people were operating on square business, just like King Randall. King Randall says all the time when I interviewed him, and on his page himself, you can see where your money went. If you donated, because he also has an Amazon wish list. So even if you don't want to directly give money, go ahead and buy the textbooks. Or the notebooks. Go ahead and buy the pencils, the pens, the scissors, whatever it is, and you'll see that show up in the classrooms. You'll see it at work. So when you're putting your money behind these different factions who have a good track record and they're not squandering the money, you'll be able to see this manifest way faster than you would if you were to put this same type of faith inside of the federal government. So, at the end of the day, the Library of Congress website is down right now. You know what I'm saying? Now, sites go down. I'm not sitting there saying that's the end all be all, but it does just speak to what I was talking about. So, mutual aid societies are integral, and they, like I said, were the precursors to the insurance companies. The oldest black American business is a black American insurance company. So my job as your local favorite Hotep historian is to reintroduce you to where you came from. And this was largely where we came from. I also speak about Joseph H. Jackson, who in his heyday bought 400 acres of land so sharecroppers could grow their own harvest and be able to make money from it, and not have the predatory debt-based deals that other sharecroppers were dealing with. Free of charge, you can come onto this land, but you have to work. And that's the reason why I love it, because it's symbiotic. Nobody's getting something for nothing. You have to put the work in. So in Joseph H. Jackson's case, I bought the land for you guys, but you have to till it. When it comes to the mutual aid societies, we have the physicians, we have the people that are able to administer aid and bring healthcare, but you do have to pay your monthly dues. But that's how it's supposed to work. Because when you start hearing things like free healthcare in that sense, it's not free. It's still coming from your tax dollars. The federal government doesn't make any money. They don't earn any money. You dig what I'm saying? So your tax dollars are what you're demanding when you're asking for the federal government to do things, and you see that they are very slow to do it. There's an entire website, a .gov website, that allows you to track government spending, and you don't see much of that going back to the disenfranchised neighborhoods, because they're the ones who disenfranchised them, the disenfranchised and disabled people, because I'm not going to say that the government disabled them, but I'm pretty sure there are some policies that did lead to, birth defects and stuff like that. So when you start relying on your fellow man, relying on yourself instead of relying on the government, I'm telling you, you will see better results. It's just that when it comes down to the black American ethos, it changed. It went from being producer to consumer. So now you have somebody as prominent and influential and impactful as a Dr. Martin Luther King, and he's standing on the fact that, yo, it is the federal government's job to be able to intervene to make Black America, progress even further. The onus is now taken off the Black American. And that is the reason why Black American history is told the way it is. Because public schools, okay, essentially state schools, if you ask me, are funded, or they're funded by you, but indirectly by the government. So the curriculum surrounding Black American history is going to be what the government essentially wants you to know about Black Americans, which is slavery, black codes, Jim Crow, Martin Luther King in the civil rights era, and then Obama. That's all they care to share with you, because that is the instances where they're going to be the most involved. They're the most involved when it comes down to the institution of chattel slavery inside of this country, because they are the ones who sanctioned it. Same thing when it comes to the black codes. Same thing when it comes to Jim Crow. And also the same thing when it comes to the civil rights era. And Obama. I mean, he was literally the president of the United States. So when it comes down to all of this stuff, you guys are just getting the government's view of Black America. And that is the reason why this is more than likely the first time you've heard about Black American historical mutual aid societies providing free medical care for its policyholders. We have the power. I want y'all to know that we have the power to make this stuff happen. We have about $2 trillion in spending power. And I know a lot of people have a debate around Black American spending power and stuff like that. But if you guys just really take a step back and look at it, even if you didn't even factor in the 100% of that, if we talk about just a quarter of that, you dig what I'm saying? If we just talk about, 33%, just a third of that, do you know what our programs will look like? Do you know what our communities will look like? See, when you are relying on the government, you are taking away so much of your power, so much of your individual power, that you'll be able to change your own situation just by being able to rely on yourself and your community. No, nothing in this article says that, we're petitioning the government to give free healthcare. That's not what they were talking about. They're talking about being able to provide these services for the people and by the people. And this is honestly the reason why, as much as I disagree with the politics of the Black Panther Party, I love their programs. As a matter of fact, let's look it up. Let's look, because I know they had dozens. When it comes down to the programs that we know about, of course, the feeding the babies, breakfast every morning. Some of us may know about the ambulances, the police patrols and stuff like that, but they had dozens of programs. So let's get into that. Where is that? Community survival programs. This might be a good one where they have a list of them. Here we go. Look at this. Decline all. Here we go. So you had the Alameda County Volunteer, Benefit Counseling, Black Student Alliance, Child Development Center, Consumer Education Classes, Community Facility Use, Community Health Classes, the East Oakland CIL, which is the Center for Independent Living, the Community Pantry, so free food, Disabled Person Services, Transportation and Attendant, Drug and Alcohol Abuse Awareness Program, Drama Classes, Drill Team, Employment Referral Service, Free Ambulance Program, Free Breakfast for Children, Free Busing to prisons so you can meet your family and visit your family, Free Clothing, Free Commissary for prisons, Free Dental Program, Free Employment, Free Food. Like, look at all the dozens of programs that the Black Panthers were able to enact inside of these communities. This is what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we're talking about, chat. Like, these things were not free, okay? They were free to the public. They were free to Black America. But as far as, like, all of these different programs, they needed support. And that's where the donations come in. That's where the policies come in when it comes to the mutual aid society. So you also have free film, free furniture, free help. Like, look at what they're doing. Free housing co-ops, free cooperative food co-ops, free optometry, free pest control, free plumbing and maintenance, free shoe program, GED classes, geriatric health, GYN clinic. Like, look at all of this stuff. Look at all of this stuff, yo. Like, they were able to make major things happen just for the people, by the people. So while I may not agree with their politics, you can't disagree with this. What other group is giving legal aid and education and stuff like that? And that's the reason why, when it comes down to ideological differences, I don't want black Americans to fall into this stuff. I don't want black Americans to think that they can't work with people who don't have the same political ideologies than them, because more than likely, if you're earnest, if you're genuine, you want the advancement of black American to be top priority, or the advancement of black Americans are top priority for you. So yeah, I'm not a communist, never will be. However, you have nutrition classes, you have home safe visits, you have intercommunal youth institute, you have the junior high and high school tutorial program, you have the legal clinic and workshops. I 100% rock with all of that stuff. Look how many programs these guys had. How many did they have? Wow. Look at this. And it's all real. You can walk in and clothe your family because of the Black Panthers. Look at this. You can't deny it. You can't deny the impact and the results of these types of programs. We need more of this. Relying on one another is important. And all you need is an institution at the head of it, a private institution that you can rely on, that you can walk into, that you can contact, to give you or provide you the services, the goods and services that you need to thrive. The only thing that they're asking in return is for you to donate. Not only donate some of your money, but also donate some of your time. Go volunteer. So when it comes down to this stuff, yo, like, Black Americans have always had the tools to make sure that Black America looks the way we want it to look. We have been told and duped into believing that we need to rely on the federal government to make these things happen. These people were providing free health care to Black Americans for, at this point, centuries. And we need, in my honest opinion, my very, very, honest opinion, we need to get back to that, because the more and more that we're petitioning the government to do this stuff, the worse and worse it's going to get. The government does not care at all. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about your family. They don't care about your granny. They don't care about none of what you got going on. As long as they can do whatever they want to do on the federal level, that's what they're going to do. But if we make sure on the grassroots, the local, the state level are implementing these types of programs, we'll be just fine. And with the strength that we have, we'll be able to defend ourselves from any type of nefarious legislation, any type of predatory legislation, and then we'll be able to use our brains, come together and use our strength to fight against that stuff. There was no need, as much as people, don't want to hear it, there was no need for the New Deal as far as Black America is concerned, for welfare programs and stuff like that. We are the welfare program. We are. And when it comes down to community and stuff like that, being able to feed somebody that's hungry, that's nothing. Should be able to feed them. We have more than enough food. Another instance was, let's go to my page. We talked about SD Redmond, right? Let's do Redmond. Here we go. Here's what he was doing. So it says Jackson people contribute liberally to the Negro Christmas Cheer Club. So the Negro Christmas Cheer Club was created by Dr. S.D. Redmond, a black man out of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, to be specific. And what he did was he brought together all of the businesses in Jackson, black and white, mainly black, but black and white businesses, and they would donate to the Negro Christmas Cheer Club. The donations went directly to the Black American families in Jackson, Mississippi, to make sure they had not only food, clothing, and toys. Excuse me, not only food and clothing, but they also had toys. So less fortunate Black American families were still able to have a solid Christmas. And this is before Toys for Tots. And, you know, shout out for Toys for Tots. I don't have a beef with them. But this just speaks to the self-reliance that I am speaking to. What else did he do? What else did he do? And if you've been here for episodes before, you know, this is not the first time we've talked about this. But like I said, in the vein of the conversation that we're having, it bears repeating. And I'm just going to let you guys know, for you guys who are, you know, planning to be here for the long haul, please believe I will be repeating myself. You will hear stories over and over again, especially when it comes down to this type of stuff, because the more and more you hear about it, the more and more you learn about it. And, you know, repetition is the father of all knowledge. So you have to be able to understand how important this stuff is. We're getting closer and closer to Christmas. Closer and closer to Christmas. Wouldn't it be dope for all of the people that talk about how they care about the poor and how they care about poor Black Americans? Wouldn't it be dope if we created institutions and organizations that will directly aid Black Americans and we don't have to rely on the government? Now, if we get, you know, local government contracts, state government contracts, I'm with that. That's different than relying on the government for, you know, quote unquote handouts. So if you're going to do business with the government, that's different. We know that Bees, she's into GovTech. Those GovTech contracts that she's getting and landing is earning her and all of her students 6-figure salaries a year, plus bonuses, plus, you know, international travel and all types of fly stuff. So the government has its place, but you also need to understand the importance of self-reliance and making sure that the grassroots, the private citizens, are being able to reap the benefits as well. So this is extremely important to understand, because we need the proliferation of these types of groups. We need the proliferation of these types of organizations, because what it does is it inspires other people to do the same. And that was one of the things that I really appreciated about Booker T. Washington's National Negro Business League. It was a nationwide movement, but it started in Boston, right? It started in Boston, and by the time, you know, the 1950s, 60s come around, you have dozens of chapters across the country. So if you're not living in Boston and you lived in, I don't know, Chicago or something like that, you can go to the Chicago chapter of the National Negro Business League as a business owner or potential employee of these Black American businesses, and either network with these people as a business owner or seek employment. Seek employment. I tell y'all all of the time that most of my bosses, most of my employers throughout my life were Black men. Black men who own private businesses, who were successful enough as far as in their business to hire me, and I bring productivity and value to their jobs, and I'm able to make money working for a Black man. I've been doing that since I was a small child, since I was 8 years old, playing drums in the church, and then 13 years old working for my first boss. So again, having all of these different avenues that you can go into in your community is way more important than waiting around for, you know, the benevolent government to come on down and hand you something. You actually feel like you've worked for it. You actually feel like it's something worth protecting, because this is coming from a space where you know it's grassroots. You have an appreciation for it because you saw the money that you had to generate, or you saw the work that you had to put in order for this stuff to actually, you know, become a thing. So when it comes down to, you know, you using these services, you're not going to use it frivolously. You're not going to abuse it, because you understand all of what went into to make that a thing. So you're not going to bother the Black Panthers with a simple, you know, sprained wrist. You're not going to have them, you know, bring a whole ambulance out just to pick you up for a sprained wrist or a sprained ankle. That's not what's going to happen. But if somebody is, you know, really, really badly injured, you have Black men and Black women who are going to drive to you directly. Drive to you directly. And if you go to places like New York City and Brooklyn, you'll see that the Jewish community in Brooklyn, they have their own ambulatory or ambulance services. They have their own police force. They have their own school buses. They have their own schools. That's a good thing. That means they care about their community. They care about the members of their community and want to specifically and directly help them and advance them. It's the reason why they'll have all of these different businesses that are patronized majority or predominantly by Jewish Americans. So you have all of these weird people who hate Jews or hate Jewish people and stuff like that. But when it comes down to the programs that they have created for themselves, I don't even know how you could hate that. They're 100% looking out for their people. And that goes for many other ethnicities in this country, but that's the one that sticks out the most. I told this story all of the time. I used to go door to door, and I was in Northeast Philly. And if you're from Philly, Northeast Philly has a lot of Ukrainians, has a lot of Russians, a lot of Eastern Europeans, right? So I'm in this Russian neighborhood going door to door, and this I knock on the door, and this lady opens the door, and this Russian man opens the door, and I'm talking to him, but he can't understand a word that I'm saying. So this tall Russian lady, like she was about as tall as me, if not maybe even a little bit taller because she had heels on, and she was like, "Oh, he doesn't speak English. I'm his translator." I was like, okay, so I just let her know what I was there for, and I was able to do my thing and have that deal made via her, which was super dope. And so while we're sitting there just waiting for things to go through and all this other stuff, she was just telling me, his story that he just got there. It may have been maybe a Friday. And she was saying that he had just got to the country on Monday. Chat, when I tell y'all he had a crib, a car, and a job as soon as he landed in America. And he worked at the local Russian plaza. There's a bunch of Russian stores and stuff like that. And I don't know which store he worked in, because she just said he worked at the plaza. May have been the grocery store. It may have been the furniture store, the carpet store, whatever. He had a job waiting for him in the States. He had a car waiting for him. He had a house waiting for him, all provided by his community. And all he had to do was work off the debt. That's all he had to do. All he had to do was wake up and go to work. And because all of his employers speak his language, most of the customers speak his language, the language barrier between Russian and English didn't even matter, because in his world, everybody speaks Russian. He's just in America speaking it. So his entire livelihood was pretty much supported by his community. So when it comes down to stuff like that, like, a young man, a young woman, needing these types of provisions, right? Like, our homeless problem and all that other stuff. And I understand that the homeless problem is much deeper than providing homes. A lot of people don't like to have that conversation, but there are many homeless people who choose not to do that just based upon the requirements of them if they were to get the housing. They had a whole free housing program for the homeless in San Francisco, and a lot of them opted out of it because they had to be drug free, and they had to get a job, and they had to do a bunch of stuff to actually earn this type of stuff. And so many of them opted out because they didn't want to. However, it doesn't matter. You go to these shelters and stuff like that, and first come first serve, or however it works, these people are able to work their way back to sobriety, work their way back into employment, work their way back into having a home, having a car, and all these different things. And if you have programs in your community that are specifically created to have that type of an ecosystem, you see our poverty rates drop. You'll see our literacy rates go up. Like, all of these different programs and stuff like that were to help the Black American. And so for me, my entire endeavor is to just show y'all, like, this is what's possible. Just with private dollars, time, people, patience, and working together. The problem has become that we have become so low trust in our society. As far as Black America is concerned, you'll have pockets. I will say this, when you go up the economic ladder in Black America, right? So the difference between like the hoods of Baltimore versus a PG County, the trust levels are going to be much higher in PG County. In the suburbs, the quiet suburbs of PG County, these are predominantly Black neighborhoods. So it's going to be a higher level of trust. The suburb that I live in right now, currently, is predominantly Black. and I get along well with my neighbors, all of this other stuff. So when it comes to that, the trust levels increase. The crime goes down because nobody wants to harm the other person. Because if I harm you, I'm more than likely taken away from the school. If I harm you, I'm taken away from a jobs program. If I harm you, I'm taken away from the overall progress of our community. But when you look at the slums of America, and it has nothing to do with race, if you just look at the slums of America, you're going to see a lot of low trust. And so what does low trust breed? It's me over them. I got to take from them to make sure I enrich myself. But the further and further up you go economically, you'll see wealthy people and their neighbors, you know, the garage is open and the garage leads into the living room and stuff like that, and it's completely unlocked, especially during the summertime, because they know that their neighbor is less likely to do them harm, less likely to take from them. So again, when I look at the problems of Black America, I understand the power of Black Americans to solve them and not needing a third party or an external party to be able to help, at least not from the government. If other races, if other communities want to get involved because they want to invest early, let's just be honest. It's pretty much what gentrification is, that these people are coming into the to the Black American communities, or the low income communities rather, and being able to buy real estate up at the cheap, because they know as they renovate, as they raise rents and stuff like that, that property value is going to go up. So it's essentially, you know, buying low and selling high. We can do that amongst each other. So again, it's extremely important to understand exactly where, you know, we come from. So what else did SD Redmond do? Was it just this? So this is just more about the Christmas Cheer Club. But he did other things. Let's see. I have a real big respect for Redmond. So this is another thing that he did. Let's see. All right. So it says Dr. S.D. Redmond gives $1,000 to Growing Rust College Building Fund. Now, what year was this? Does it say the year? Doesn't say. But here we go. It says Rust College makes great progress in its $300,000 building fund drive, as Dr. S.D. Redmond gives $1,000. The school has raised so far $105,000 in cash, and the Board of Education of the Methodist Church has agreed to give Russ $85,000 additional, thereby making a total of $190,000. You see how it doesn't say the government? You see how it doesn't say the feds? Do you see that it doesn't say anything other than that? It's just speaking about private citizens being able to use their money. And that was another thing. Now that we brought up the church, we've brought up the church several times now. And one of the things that was really, really, really important for Black Americans historically was the church. The church, the Black American church, has always been the hub of culture, the hub of history, the hub of fellowship, and of course, the hub of, you know, fellowshipping and worshiping God. And the church was way more apt to do community work, invest in the community, donate to the community, because they understood that the better the community does, the better the church does. It's a part of the community. And I think that's one of the things that has always been a through line when it comes to the ancestors. They understood that, you know, they understood the greater good. They understood that the community was, you know, for them, that this program is for everybody. And they're not bigger than the community. They're not bigger than the program. If I want my babies, as far as me being the pastor of a church, or if I want my flock, my congregation to be able to get a quality education, me as the person who was taking in the tithes and offerings every week, I need to be using that money for the greater good of my congregation. And that's what they did. And I'm not saying Black churches don't do that to this day, because I know that they do. Because anytime that I bring up your mega churches and your Creflo Dollars and stuff like that, or your TD Jakes, you'll have people saying, well, my church doesn't do that. My church, you know, loves the community. We have a pantry. We do this. We got these classes. We help mothers. We help fathers. We do all of these different things. So I want to say that Black American churches still do these things. However, we need to just improve on the way that we are helping the community. And that's all it is. And we do, just so we know that, just so you guys know that I'm not living in, la la land, is that, there are going to be people inside of the community that mean us harm. I remember when my house in Philadelphia was being renovated and people ran into the house at night and stole ceiling fans, stole tools, stole a whole bunch of stuff. So of course that's where the burglar bars had to get on the windows, the burglar bars, over the door and all the other stuff. Not everybody is going to mean you well. That's just the facts of the matter. Not everybody is going to see your vision. As a matter of fact, there are going to be people who are going to run in opposition to your vision simply because they love to see the world burn. Okay? Evil people exist. Nefarious people exist. People with ulterior motives exist. However, for the most part, that's not how people are built. And all you got to do, just like they did, was to put the burglar bars on the window, put the burglar bars on the door, protect yourself, always defend yourself, no matter what, and being able to keep it going, keep it pushing. So it says this, of course, is a long ways from the $300,000, their present goal, but said Dr. Redmond, quote, "We are well on our way." Dr. S.D. Redmond is a trustee of Rusk College and has just raised and reported $2,400 in cash and subscriptions. So this is, what you're able to do. This is what one business owner was able to do. This is what one man was able to do. Now multiply that by the hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people in your city. Imagine what you can get done. Everybody chips in and makes a concerted effort to build up this institution. And the more support that these institutions get, the better. I want to show you guys something that's happening in present day. Let's see. So we got the Carver. There we go. Carver Bank Corp Inc. Okay, so Carver Bank Corp Inc. is a publicly traded company. Okay, and one of its subsidiaries obviously is going to be the Carver Federal Savings Bank. All right, it's under the leadership of M. Morin Weston in 1948. Is one of the largest black-owned financial institutions in the United States. And it has a stock ticker, y'all. Look at this. It has a stock ticker. Now, of course, it's not looking the greatest. Won't lie about it. However, if you are an investor for real, if you understand investing for real, you know that, of course, the company has to be viable. And this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to buy stock in this company. I just want you guys to see what I'm talking about here. Imagine black Americans will buy shares, all throughout the country, buy shares of Carver Bank Corp Inc. And we run the stock price all the way up and keep it there. When you're talking about the world of investing, you always want to buy low and sell high. Buy low and hold as far as long-term investments. Now, imagine more and more black Americans are putting their dollars inside of Carver Bank. More and more people are investing in Carver Bank Corp. More and more people are able to enrich themselves based upon the appreciation of the stock. And of course, those banks being able to hand out loans, being able to invest in local businesses in that area. And brother Rashid Talent, he actually is partnered with Carver's Federal Savings Bank. Okay, and he has a partnership when it comes to the Green Campaign and the Bushwick Safety Zone and Education Center, which I will be teaching at. Shout out to him. I'm building the curriculum around the 5 pillars, right? So that's the commercial, the industrial, the professional, the intellectual, and the political. Those 5 groups of people. Those 5, the 5 types of people. I'm building a curriculum around that for the babies, and I will be teaching it at Brother Rashid, Brother Talent's school. Can't wait to do that. You feel me? He's partnered up with Carver Bank. So imagine more and more people are investing in this company, we buying it low. We buying it at $1.60, $1.70. And as you can see, at one point, it was at what? How much per share? At its height, it was at $375 a share in 2003. The type of return that you will be able to get, you know what I'm saying, based upon you buying at $1.70, like, it's incredible. These are things that we can do right now. You can actually, I'm not saying that you should, but you can absolutely pay or buy shares in this company. You dig? So you talking about if you bought 100 shares, you put $100 in that. You got almost 100 shares. And let's just say we work it all the way back to the 300 area. Like, look how much prosperity that would bring you. So when we're talking about solutions, when we're talking about the things that Black Americans are able to do right now in 2025, these are the possibilities that I'm talking about. This is the stuff that we can implement. So going back to, to the tweet, this is where we need to be at here. More philanthropy from our business owners and our producer class. Shout out to the chat. Let's see what we got. Memphis, Nikki, of course. Vincent, what up, my boy? Shout out to Tori McNeil. Sway Core Blocks, shout out to you. Hotep, make sure y'all hitting the like and subscribe for sure. What else did SD Redmond do? What else did he do? Oh, that's the cheer club. We already talked about that, but he did something else. Here we go. So Dr. Redmond gives prizes to students. And it says down there in the caption, Dr. SD Redmond, wealthy business and professional man, and nationally known, sorry, because it's super squinty on my end, nationally known political leader who gave $200 in cash prizes to college students in a statewide intercollegiate oratorial contest on the question how to improve the economic status of the Negro. So I talked about this before on stream, but again, it bears repeating. So SD Redmond putting his money where his mouth is all throughout the community, as you can see, investing in the schools, investing in the just the private citizens to make sure they had a good Christmas, and now also investing in the minds of the youth. And the way that he's investing in the minds of the youth outside of the college is to challenge the youth to think about practical, pragmatic, and applicable solutions to improve the economic status of their people. He could have asked them any question, and he says, hey, I'm gonna challenge your oratory skills by asking you, hey, how can we improve the economic status of Black Americans? And if you remember, when we were talking about Reverend Henry Mitchell, his programs were the same way. They focused on the youth and they focused on economics. This is, again, not a coincidence. The ancestors knew what was important. The ancestors understood that economics are the bedrock of any type of progress. You can't point to a civilization in the world, throughout world history, since man was man, since Adam and Eve, you cannot show me a civilization that rose itself up from the ashes or rose itself up from the soil that did not focus on the youth and did not focus on economic growth. You need both. You need a future and you need something for the future to stand upon. And so when we were talking about Reverend Mitchell, what did he have? He had school finishing programs and then he had jobs programs. Economics in the youth. King Randall, revenue generation as far as the businesses that he has that the school owns, right? The laundromat in the group home, and then the youth. Same thing when it comes to Black Guns Matter. Same thing when it comes to Hotep Nation, our homeschool initiative. Like, we, as far as institution builders, the people that understand solutions, we understand that you're not going to get anywhere if we don't talk to the youth, if we're not making sure we're positively affecting the youth and also putting our money where our mouth is. That's why I go so hard. That's why I'm going to I'm literally creating a curriculum for children to understand men like Dr. S.D. Redman. So by the time that they even become, a young adult, they already have in the back of their mind what's possible because of where they came from. Imagine if you learned all of this stuff when you were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and it was taught to you by somebody that actually cares about you, that has an affinity for you. Because I love all of the kids that I teach. And that's why I always had a respect for teachers and always will. So when it comes down to all of this stuff, imagine if you already knew this type of Black history as a child, and you were inspired, motivated, and educated by other Black people, by people that look like you and care about you. You would be doing great things from a very early age because of the stock that you come from, because of the figures that you learned about, especially when you learn about these men and women's backgrounds. A lot of these men and women don't have the highest levels of education. They definitely didn't come from the laps of luxury. They come from very, very, very humble beginnings. We talk about Samuel B. Fuller. Samuel B. Fuller had a 6th grade education. Okay? Either a 2nd grade education he got out of school at 2nd grade education he got out at 6, or he had a 6th grade education. Either way, he ended up having 5,000 employees in several different businesses across the country. So again, these humble beginnings didn't stop them. So imagine with now the children of the 21st century coming in, and they're born with iPhones in their hands and in their faces. They're born with iPads and technology and all this other stuff at their disposal. And if you're using that technology to inspire, educate, and motivate them to actually do better than Samuel B. Fuller, to do better than Dr. S.D. Redman, to do better than Reverend Henry Mitchell, to do better than Joseph H. Jackson, imagine what they would get into. We talked about not too long ago on stream about there was a 10-year-old boy driving cabs. So when it comes down to what the children and what the babies are capable of, you got to understand all they need is the proper motivation. All they need is the proper inspiration. All that they need is the proper education from the adults around them. But what happens is so many adults, because of the way they look at themselves, they impart a lot of discouragement into the kids. They'll say shit like, yo, the white man not gonna let you. Even if they don't say it as blatantly like that, you've seen, if you're somebody like me who brings up the ability to build towns or to build infrastructure or to build institutions and stuff like that, you'll have the naysayers that look just like you tell you, oh, we tried that already. They're just gonna burn it down. That's what a Black American person is saying to another Black American person. There's no white person around. There's no enemy around. It's just black on black conversation. And that person is so discouraged because of the history that they were taught, right? The weaponization of Black American history. Because of the weaponization of their ancestors, they don't think that they're able to do it despite the ancestors doing it over and over again. You dig what I'm saying? So we're about an hour in. Again, this is just your reminder to make sure you're subscribing on everything. Okay? Hotep History on TikTok, Hotep History on Instagram, Hotep Histories on Twitter. You want to make sure that you go to patreon.com/Hotep History. Make sure you guys are, subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're doing your best to support, because this is exactly what I am talking about. I need you guys. That's a fact. I love teaching history. This is my bag. However, I want this channel to grow, and I know you want this channel to grow. So we have to make concerted efforts to make sure that we are putting our support behind things that we actually want to see in the world. I'm pretty sure you guys want to see me teach the babies. I'm pretty sure you guys want to see me, make sure that Black American history is properly preserved and properly taught to Black Americans specifically, but America overall. Because too much of our history has been lied about. Too much of our history has been bastardized. Too much of our history has been weaponized against not only Black Americans, but Americans in general. It's a reason why you see these white liberals look down upon Black Americans the way they do. They'll gentrify your neighborhood all day long and say that, the poor and disenfranchised Black American, but they will separate themselves from you. They will look down upon you. They will say weird shit like Black Americans don't know how to get an ID to vote. they don't actually look at you as a viable human being. They look at you as a pity case. And on the other side of that, when you start talking about these conservatives and stuff like that, all they want to highlight is the crime. All they want to highlight is the disorganization, the dysfunction of our communities, and be able to use that as an example to treat us less than human. It's the same thing. That's why I say it's the two wings on the same bird. However, there are Black Americans right now living and breathing, doing their best to make sure that they're putting on Black American advancement. You got to start small. You got to start on the grassroots. That's just what it is. However, it's extremely important that you guys are participating in this. Nobody throughout the history of Black America sat around and just watched Black America advance. That's not how it works. You have to participate. And everybody that's actually building these things, they'll tell you, you got to get outside. You have to do the work. So I have no problem doing the work. I implore everybody to do the work. But, you know, it takes time, and it takes dedication, and it takes intention. You guys have to be deliberate. And that's the reason why I do what I do. Let's check the chat. Memphis says Dr. SD Redman is goated. That's a fact. I told y'all he has the most illustrious resume that I've ever seen in an American man, black, white, or whatever. And we can get to that in just a second. Memphis also says, in a perfect world, SD Redman would have been more influential than W.E.B. Du Bois. That's a fact. Like I tell y'all all of the time, the reason why I go so hard about SD Redman is because he doesn't come up in the mainstream. He does not come up in the mainstream, just like Joseph H. Jackson doesn't really come up in the mainstream. And these men provided way more in their lifetime than so many other, you know, intellectuals, thought leaders, and all this other stuff. Like, yo, that's cool that you think for a living, but what are you actually doing? What are you actually building? What are you actually constructing? What are you actually providing people? Because I'm in the intellectual class, right? I study and I present my studies for the masses, for you guys. However, you see what I am studying, and then you also see what I'm building as it pertains to the brand, as it pertains to the company. I was asked today, you know, what are certain other things that I want to do as far as, you know, my trajectory of success. And since that conversation to the time that I'm talking to you guys now, I think that I want to build a school. I want to build a school. And even if it's just a history school, where it be like a museum mixed with, you know, it's basically, think like a museum with a bunch of classrooms. And so we'll have different rooms that's going to teach different parts of Black American history. So a museum / school. That's my answer. That's my answer. I want my name, and I want my works, and I want my passion, and I want all of the things that I actually, you know, my legacy to be that I built something that was solely to educate Black American children, or Americans in general, but Black American children specifically, on where they come from, who they come from, what they come from. It's extremely important to me. What else we got? Shout out to Sammy, Hotep, Vincent in the building. I already got my my bullseye emoji. It only took me an hour tonight, hour and 13 minutes. So I'm on a roll. Shout out to Vincent. Always can count on you guys, man. I appreciate y'all, man, for sure, for sure. And I'm letting y'all know now, we are on Kick. We are on Kick. We are on Kick. Kick.com/Hotep History. Make sure you guys are following me there. I'm going to do everything that I can from tonight to tomorrow to not be streaming on YouTube anymore. We will be streaming on Kick. Shout out to my brand consultant. Shout out to HJ. They've been put the battery in my back to go ahead. We got to make better moves, and I want to be able to, you know, uncensor myself and use the words that I know that I want to use. And also, to be totally honest with you, I want to play some music. I want to put y'all on to some of the, you know, my favorite songs that I like to play. I was going to do that tonight I had a whole song lined up. You know what I'm saying? It's one of my favorite joints. And now that I'm on YouTube, I'm not gonna play it because since I've been able to monetize this YouTube channel, you know, the copyright strikes and stuff like that have been hitting my channel. So again, I want to make sure that you guys are understanding the importance of this stuff. So kick.com/Hotep history. Kick.com/Hotep history. All right. So where we at? So here we go. Let's go to the book. Let's go to the primary source. Here we go. So this is the manual of the International Order of 12 of Knights and Daughters of Tabor. I think that's how you pronounce it. I thought it was Tabor. I'm not all the way sure, but I think it's Tabor. Containing general laws, regulations, ceremonies, drill, and a Taborian lexicon by Reverend Moses Dixon. Now, Reverend says, Hotep, you got to get that spammers out the kick chat. Yeah, I got to get a moderator for the chat, man. I'll like I said, I when it comes to what I do over here, we build the wings as we fly. So whatever kinks and stuff like that and glitches and all of that, we're gonna work it out. But so appreciate you for letting me know. But we're gonna take care of it. When it comes to Reverend Moses Dixon, man, he has done so much for Black America. So we can go to his wiki before we even get into the book, because I really don't even know what page that any of the information is on. I just read the book and I don't remember. It's not 2Ks. Pause. There we go. Incredible guy here. Incredible guy. So we can just go through some of the stuff that he's done. So just a little introduction to Moses Dixon. Abolitionist, soldier, minister, and founder of the Knights of Liberty, an anti-slavery organization that planned a slave uprising in the United States and helped African-American enslaved people to freedom through the Underground Railroad. He also founded the Black Self-Help Organization, the International Order of 12 Knights and Daughters of Tabor, and was a co-founder of Lincoln University in Missouri. And he was also active in Prince Hall Freemasonry. So again, these are the black men, the black women that you're going to see. And so we can go to, we'll read his wiki, but I want to show you just an excerpt from his book. It's no words, but it was super dope. Let's see. So this is from that book that I just showed y'all. Okay. Look at this. Look how cool this is. Look at the symbology of the Knights of Tabor. The numerology that's involved here. And I remember somebody was in my mentions like, oh, this is European. This is European. Dog, y'all don't even know that the European secret societies and how they were created, you know where they got it from? They got it from Egypt. They got it from the Egyptian or Kemet, the mystery schools. So all of your great, Greek philosophers and stuff like that, they got their knowledge from Egypt, from Kemet. So Hippocrates, Plato, all of those figures, they all studied in Kemet. They all got their knowledge from Kemet. So when you start talking about, how the pyramids were built and stuff like that, like all of this knowledge as far as astronomy, mathematics, agriculture, and all of this stuff comes from Kemet. So the ancient Europeans would, of course, get all of this knowledge from them, bring it back to Europe, remix it a little bit, and now Hippocrates is the father of medicine. Even though Hippocrates got his knowledge from Hotep. Got it from Hotep. And so shout out to the Hotep's been telling us. Hotep's been told you. So Hotep has the longest lineage, obviously. And all of this different knowledge comes from them, and it just gets passed down. And this is a real life picture of them. This is what year? 1914. Okay, so this is real life stuff. This is what the ancestors were participating in for the advancement of Black Americans. All right, so that's the Knights of Tabor, and let me know how to pronounce that. But let's go back to the wiki. We can close the programs for that. All right, so just read his quick bio. Moses was born free Black American, April 5th, 1824. So a free Black man. A lot of people don't know, but there's long lineages of free Black Americans. Oh, excuse me, Hotep. Excuse me. Thank you, Memphis. Hotep. Not Amenhotep. So his father, Robert, died when he was 8, and his mother, Hannah, died when he was 14. He had 5 sisters and 3 brothers. As a youth, he trained as a barber, so he had a trade. Look at just the through line when it comes to the ancestral Black American ethos. But anyway, at age 16, he began a 3-year tour of the South, working as a itinerant barber on steamships. What he witnessed in his travels convinced him to work for the abolition of slavery. There we go. On August 12, 1846, Dixon and 11 other young men met in the second story of an old brick house on Green Street and 7th Street, whose name was later changed to Lucas Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri, to create a plan to end slavery in the United States. They formed a secret organization known as the Knights of Liberty, which plans to initiate a national insurrection against slavery. Dixon declared, quote, "It was determined to organize the slaves throughout the South, drill them, and in 10 years from that time, strike for freedom." During an interview with the Denver Post, reprinted in the Minneapolis Journal on July 4th, 1901. The men took an oath of secrecy, quote, "I can die, but I cannot reveal the name of any member until the slaves are free," which is fire. It's fire. Let's see. Memphis corrects me further and says Amenhotep was a line of pharaohs. Imhotep was the polymath. Got you. Thank you for that correction, bro. And that's why I be trying to tell y'all, man, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna get stuff wrong. I want y'all to be participating in the chat with me, man. So shout out to Memphis for that. At the end of 10 years, these 12 men had grown to a network of resistance that included 42,000 men across every southern state except Texas and Mississippi, according to Dixon. These armed men, so they had guns, met secretly at night and drilled for the uprising. Plans were complete. Well, quote, "Plans were complete for a rising," Dixon told the Denver Post reporter. Quote, "A concentration of the forces was ordered at Atlanta, Georgia. We expected to have nearly 200,000 men when we reached Atlanta. In July 1857, the men were ready to march. Dixon's orders to them were to, quote, "spare women and children, parole non-combatants, treat prisoners well, and capture all ammunitions. March, fight, and conquer, or leave their bodies on the battlefield." A day was set for the national insurrection, but before the time came, it had become apparent to the leaders that the relationship between the North and the South was becoming so strained that it was decided to postpone the uprising. Civil war was about to break out. Dixon decided that, quote, "a higher power was at work," and told the Knights of Liberty to, quote, "wait, have patience, hold together, not break ranks, trust in the Lord." That's fire. Having changed his mind about the uprising, Dixon spoke to the abolitionist John Brown at Davenport just before Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry with 16 black men on October 16th, 1859, and tried to dissuade him, telling him it was too early, but Brown went ahead anyway. So this is the background that Moses is coming from. So he created this group, about to be 6 figures deep as far as what they were able to do. And freeing the slaves, a whole national uprising, super fire. So he also participated in the Underground Railroad. Let's see. Beginning in 1850, the network created by the Knights of Liberty was also using the Underground Railroad to help escape slaves to freedom. A smaller secret organization, the Order of 12, which we were just looking at, was created in Galena, Illinois, which used St. Louis as its headquarters and aided hundreds of slaves to freedom. Dixon raised funds for the railroad and also directly arranged individual escape plans. So he was active. So he was born free and then dedicated his life to the freedom of his fellow man and woman. This is what I'm talking about. You're not going to see any Black American progress, especially through the 19th going into the 20th century, without concerted efforts of Black American men and women working together for the advancement of themselves. That's the through line. Quote, strange as it may seem, he told the Denver Post reporter, some of our most generous supporters were slave owners. Wow, let's get into that. They did not approve of the system, but they had inherited slaves and treated them so well they had no desire to run away. They had nothing to fear from the railroad. Wow. It's like almost like they called his bluff or something. One of these men, he said, was General Cassius Clay of Kentucky, who gave him $1,000 for the railroad. Contributions also came from England, from people who knew of the Knights and worked with them. When the Civil War broke out, there was a shipload of arms and ammunition in Mobile Harbor and another in Galveston Harbor sent to us by Englishmen. Okay. So it also says Dixon also tells of watching a mother and daughter being sold on the auction block in New Orleans, and then arranging for their escape by having them stolen, dressing them as boys, and getting them hired onto a steamer upriver and finally to freedom in Canada. Another man was helped to escape by putting him in a wooden box and shipping him to Charleston, South Carolina. After his escape to his north, the man was called himself Henry Box Brown. Wow. So Henry Box Brown was aided by Moses Dixon. That, like, Henry Box Brown has his own lore and his own story. But the person who was actually being able to, because I have the book, A Life in Slavery and Freedom. So, wow, that's dope. That's super dope. And we'll finish off with the Civil War and Reconstruction and go back to the book. During the Civil War, the Knights disbanded, and many of their members, including Dixon, joined the Union Army, obviously. With the end of the Civil War, Dixon began to focus on education and economic development among the free people. I'm trying to tell y'all something. The through line is the through line. You're not going to escape it. Period. You're going to see the same activities because the same solutions are being needed in Black America. Education and economics. The bedrock of Black American advancement will be those two things: getting your brains up and getting your money up. That's it. And being able to use both to be able to create institutions, build homes, build towns, build institutions, whatever it is. But that is the reason why I go as hard as I do, y'all. The ancestors made it very clear what was the most important. They made it very clear what was the most important for Black American advancement. Of course, you need family and community, but that almost goes without saying as far as the ancestors are concerned, because they knew that when it came down to family and community, ain't nobody else coming for us. Ain't nobody else coming. You may have people who are willing to help. He had slave owners donating and contributing to his movement. So, yeah, you may have some external parties. You may have some third parties. What the hell flew in my throat? Pause. But for the most part, it's going to be Black Americans relying on each other. Period. So, he joined the African Methodist Episcopalian Church, AME, in 1866 and became an ordained minister the following year. In 1869, Dixon became a Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Missouri's Prince Hall Freemasonry. More through line. He also was highly involved in the Heroines of Jericho, an auxiliary group open to black women to the Holy Royal Arch Masons. Okay, publishing a ritual handbook for the heroines in 1895. And I do have that. I do have that book. Yep, there we go. It's right here. Right here. He wrote that. He wrote this as well. I hope you guys are paying attention to the titles of these books. I hope y'all paying attention. So this is another one that he wrote. Okay. So while that's loading, let's get back to the wiki. He started schools for black children and lobbied to obtain black teachers for black children. With other returning black Union soldiers, he was one of the co-founders of the Lincoln Institute, later known as Lincoln University. So he's living what he's speaking. He's creating these different groups, focusing on black American economics, black American education. Okay, so you started with the schools for the little babies, and now you have an institute for the young adults, right? Let's see, in Jefferson City, Missouri, as well as a founding member of the Missouri Equal Rights League. In 1879 to 1880, Reverend Dixon served as president of the Refugee Relief Board, which provided aid and support to the approximately 16,000 African Americans from the South who ended up in St. Louis on their way to Kansas and other states as part of the Exodus movement. So we were talking about the Great Migration from 1910 to 1970, but right after slavery, there was also a migration of black Americans. But as you can see, it wasn't as large. It wasn't as large. And before I say it didn't exist, I want to know if the Great Migration had similar things. So where they created these groups to help black Americans, created these groups to help other black Americans on their way up north. So Mississippi to Detroit or Chicago, North Carolina to New York and New Jersey. Like, were there black American organizations or institutions along that way to help black Americans get on their feet? Because all I read was that white labor agents from these factories came from up north to down south to recruit and handpick the best and brightest of the South, which then of course caused a brain drain in many different instances, because the requirements were that they had to be of a particular age, between, I want to say, the ages of 15 and 40. They had to have a particular literacy rate. They also had to live in metropolises or the cities, so they weren't really going to the rural areas. And if you owned a business or you had money and all that other stuff, the more money the better, because you had to pay your way to get up north. So what they would do, they would front you money to go up north, and then you would pay it off with the job that you got when you got to the factory. So of course, to alleviate any money that they had to pay out, they wanted men, particularly men, obviously, who could pay for their own way up north and all of that. So these men were being cherry picked out of the South. And of course, that's going to cause brain drain, also going to influence and have more and more black men leave the South, even if it wasn't that advantageous to them, just because they're following the money. So let's see. Let's finish up. In memory of the original 12 Knights of Liberty, in 1872, Dixon and his wife, Mary Elizabeth Butcher Peters, of course, all of those names, created the International Order of 12 Knights and Daughters of Tabor, an African-American fraternal organization. Okay, the new organization promoted African-American advancement through, quote, Christian demeanor, the acquisition of property and wealth, morality, temperance, education, and, quote, man's responsibility to the supreme being. Come on, y'all. I don't want to keep pausing, but this is, you are seeing in real time what the ancestral black American ethos was all about. I'll read it again. The new organization promoted African American advancement through, quote, Christian demeanor, the acquisition of property and wealth, morality, temperance, education, and, quote, a man's responsibility to the supreme being. That, in a nutshell, is the ancestral black American ethos. That's what it's about. This organization, more commonly known as the Order of 12, accepted males and females on equal terms. Men and women gathered together in higher level groups in the governing bodies of the organization, although at the local level, the men held their meetings in temples and the women in tabernacles, similar to lodges in Freemasonry. This organization was most active in the South and the lower Midwest. Like many fraternal orders of the time, the members received a burial policy and weekly cash payments for the sick. You see what I'm saying? So let's see. Let's go to the book, and so this is what it is. What's some words we can look into? Let's go policy first. Let's see what they say about policy. Nothing for policy? Come on, that can't be true. That can't be true. Payment. Let's see what we got. Widows and orphans. Okay, so this may be a program for the widows and the orphans. Let's zoom in a little bit. And this is Moses's book. Section 1. A grand temple and tabernacle shall create and sustain a fund for the benefit of Sernites, widows and orphans, and the orphans of daughters of the tabernacle. The grand session shall, within 3 years after the organization of the grand temple and tabernacle, form and set to work this department, and place it under the control and management of the board of grand curators. The assessment against the knights and the daughters shall be liberal and sufficient to meet the requirements of the good name of the order. The assessment shall be collected from each temple and tabernacle quarterly. Temples and tabernacles here are hereby made responsible for the non-payment of assessments of their members. So it says payment to Payment to widows and orphans shall be made quarterly in accordance with the regulations made by the grand session. These regulations must be carefully drawn from the government of this fund so as to ensure the regular payment of the quarterly allowances for the widows and orphans and for the collection of the assessments. So again, this is the organizations that we are talking about. This book was written, I want to say, in the mid to late 19th century. When a widow or orphan removes from the jurisdiction of the Grand Temple and Tabernacle, the Board of Grand Curators can, for this reason, refuse to pay the allowance, but if they have good reason for paying it and consider it for the best interest of the order, they may continue the payment. So, again, just letting everybody know the importance of it. Is that the only page that talks about it? What else we got? Order 12 is worthy by virtue of the authority he is docile, hereby transferred to any temple, the knights of table, or elects him upon payment of $1. Okay. So this book, let's see what else they have up here. What's some other words we can look up? School. Let's see if they have anything for school. Present school. Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Dixon was born in and attended school. So that's not something. A school of philosophy was sustained. Are they talking about? Okay, they talking about what? Ethiopia? Yeah, African civilization. Okay. All right. Well, this is a good read. You guys should definitely check it out. When you guys get a chance. But what else we got going on here? So let's go back to mutual aids. Because we haven't even gotten to all of the tabs. I wanted to make sure you guys had a firm understanding of what we was talking about tonight. So, mutual assistance, building black community life and freedom. All right. This is a contemporary source, but it's from the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. They already have their sources and stuff like that. The bibliography is right down here. So all of this, you can see it right here. So let's go back to the top. We do a lot of reading over here at Hotep History. We do a lot of reading. Let me check the other chat, make sure. Yeah. Just making sure that y'all are tapping in. While y'all here, make sure y'all retweet my pin tweet. Get the people in here. Let's see. It says the Revolutionary War marked the beginning of slavery's abolition in the North, following the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, yada, 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 because we're not about to get into all of that introductory speak. Let's get into, let's get into that, because, okay. We can go down here. As the revolution began, about 46,000 Northerners were enslaved, and in 1790, more than 40,000 remained in slavery, while about 27,000 were free. By 1820, however, nearly 85% of black people in the North were free. Okay, so that sets the scene for us. As freedom came to black Americans, many moved to cities where they could reunite with family members, find employment, build organizations, and create communities. Some of the first organizations they formed for survival and sustenance were mutual aid societies and churches. Told y'all. The best known societies in this period were the African Union Society in Newport, Rhode Island, the African Society in Boston, the African Humane Society in Philadelphia, and the African Society for Mutual Relief in New York City. That all of these organizations bear the title African reflects the fact that many members had been born in Africa and most others were only a generation or two from the ancestral homelands. Now, I understand that there's like a whole group of people who claim Native American and stuff like that. See, I tend to believe that most of these debates and stuff like that are somewhere in the middle. You're not going to deny that a substantial lineage, or excuse me, a substantial amount of black Americans, their lineage does trace back to Africa. Like, that would be insane to say. But also, there are going to be some people who have Native American lineages as well. And I think the answer is just understanding both, but also being nuanced about it. Okay, the members' cultural roots help shape the values and practices of the societies. In African cultures, a proper burial was of central importance, and the groups generally began as burial societies. As the North gradually relinquished slavery, the emerging new communities were extraordinarily poor, and the need for support was great. Available resources were also limited by discrimination against black people by many charitable organizations for the poor. What did I just say? Nobody coming to save you. In addition to assistance for burials, mutual aid societies also typically provided aid to the disabled, to widows, and the children of members, including orphan children, and to the ill members. They also offered unemployment insurance and employment assistance. So, doesn't that sound like what I was just referring to when it came down to the Russian guy in Philly? This is what I'm talking about. We need to bring all of this energy back into black America. Okay, the first known black mutual aid society was the African Union Society, formed in Newport, 1780. Gradual emancipation had not yet begun in the state. So that was another thing. And you're going to learn this in episode 5 as well. They had gradual emancipation acts all throughout the North. Not so much the South, but New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, all of these different states had gradual emancipation. And basically, that was either going to, slowly free the slaves or compensate the slave owners for their loss of income. That's just what it is. Now, the mutual aid societies didn't pay the slave owners, but that's what the act did. Okay, so keep that in mind. As a matter of fact, the first Emancipation Day, the precursor to Juneteenth, was in Washington, D.C. We talked about that in the Juneteenth episode. So yeah, the first Emancipation Day was celebrated, and I want to say, I'm gonna say it, and y'all gonna fact check me whether I'm right or wrong. Okay, July 4th, 1852. But since July 4th, a bunch of white people, a bunch of crackers got upset. They moved it to July 5th. So y'all fact check me. Is that correct? July 4th, 1852, but then changed to July 5th. I'm 1852. I know it was July 4th and July 5th, but the years when I'm asking for a fact check. Y'all just put the year in the chat. 1852, I believe, is the year. And while y'all do that, I'm gonna keep reading. Let's see. Gradual emancipation had not been, but in addition to those already free, some African Americans had been promised freedom at war's end in exchange for joining the 1st Rhode Island Regiment. Known as the Black Regiment, this revolutionary unit included the Narragansett Native American, enslaved, and free black men. The African Union Society offered full memberships to free people and limited memberships to those still enslaved. Newport Gardner, an educated man who kept a record of births, deaths, marriages, and apprenticeships for black Newporters, was one of the organization's leaders, though he held a restricted membership. Born in West Africa in 1746, Gardner's African name was Akramer Meriku. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. When he was 14 years old, he was transported to Rhode Island and sold by the ship's captain to another captain, Calvin Gardner, who gave him his slave name. Okay. Let's see what we got. Newport Gardner was educated along with his owner's children and reportedly in 4 years learned English and French, studied singing and music composition, and converted to Christianity. He also composed the hymn Promise Anthem, said to be sung in the city's churches until 1940. Wow. Gardner finally gained his freedom in 1791 at the age of 45 after he and his friends won $2,000 in a lottery. Wow. His share allowed him to buy his own freedom and that of his wife, Lemus, and to purchase or negotiate freedom for their 8 children. Big family. The following year, the African Union Society granted Gardner full membership, and by the early 1800s, he established his own singing and music composition school, had begun a free school for for African American children, partly maintained by the society, and had become an ordained deacon in the First Congregational Church. By that time, the society had begun the African Benevolent Society. The society had become the African Benevolent Society with a female auxiliary. Like all the mutual aid societies, it often struggled to maintain the membership payments that supported its aid. To help provide proper funerals, it did nonetheless lend a buyer and Paul cover. I've never heard that term before. A buyer and Paul, beer and Paul. Is that like Paul Barrett? I don't know. For members' coffins, and at least one instance in the late 1790s gave a widow enough money to purchase tea, sugar, and rum for the many out-of-town guests expected for her husband's funeral. So we just needed more. That's it. I ain't mad at them. They just needed more support, more money. This is in the 18th century, so I'm gonna give them grace, obviously. Other mutual aid societies that follow adopted similar aims and methods. In 1787, African Americans in Philadelphia, led by prominent black minister Richard Adams and Absalom Jones, we talked about that, the Free African Society, stress and charity, mutual aid, and leadership and training. In 1796, 44 black men established Boston's African Society, pledging to provide burial assistance, benefits to the needy, and aid for the ill and unemployed. This society also administered wills and, like most others, called on members to lead sober and moral lives. It's so funny how the similarities between these groups and life insurance companies now, because life insurance companies definitely want you to be a non-smoker and don't drink alcohol and stuff like that, and your premiums are affected if you do. So this is the same thing, and of course this is more grounded in the religion and stuff like that. It was grounded in temperance. It wasn't even grounded in really health. It was like, being drunk is against the laws of God, and so we want you to maintain a sober life. Other societies followed. Philadelphia's Africa Humane Society in 1790, and New York City's African Society for Mutual Relief in 1808. In Philadelphia alone, there were nearly 50 societies in 1830 and 100 by 1838. So in 8 years, they doubled. That's crazy. That's so crazy. I'm trying to tell y'all, they wanted us off our game. If we kept doing this for all of the times, even with government opposition, even with the lynchings, even with all of the state violence, all of that stuff, if we kept it going when it comes to this stuff, we would eventually become unstoppable. I'm telling y'all. I know a lot of people are discouraged by this type of stuff, but I'm not, I don't believe anything that's worth having is going to come easy. I think there's going to be a challenge. There's going to be something that you're going to have to go through or work through to be able to achieve it. That's just what I believe. Right? So let's see. Most organizations were open to a general membership. Some were either for men or for women, and few were specialized, such as New York's African Marine Fund, organized by sailors. That's dope. I got to look into that. Never even heard of that. Got to look into that, see what we can get from there. It is remarkable how many mutual aid societies grew in such poor communities. Come on now, let's talk about it. The societies had initiation fees for members that ranged from 25 cents to $1, and monthly dues ranging from 12.5 cents to 50 cents. This was substantial considering that in New England in 1808, the average female domestic worker earned 70 cents a week. In Massachusetts in 1800, a day labor earned 30 to 60 cents a day, and in 1810 from 50 cents to $1 a day. Such day labor provided insecure wages, and much of the work in port cities were seasonal. Additionally, many workers were seamen, often away from home for months or years at a time. Special arrangements for monthly dues were made for these men, who were generally paid at the end of a voyage. Okay? Yet these societies did manage to provide food, clothing, firewood, and other goods and services to needy members. The Free African Society in Philadelphia, for example, provided total annual benefits of $6,000 in 1830, $9,000 in 1836, and $14,000 in 1838. We're going straight to the calculator. We got years and money. We got to put it together. Let's go. Got to put it together. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? I should be closing these stuff as I go. So 6,000 in 1830 would be how much? 1830, $210,000. Wow. Okay. 9,000 6 years later. Come on, hurry up and load up. 9,000. Six years later. What else? What we got? 312,000. Okay. And the last number was, wait, did I do? Okay. And the last one was 14,000 in 1838. 2 years later. And that, you can see the progress was being made majorly. Almost $500,000. And while we here, since y'all didn't answer me in the chat, I don't know if things are frozen. Hold on. We're still running. First Emancipation Day. No, obviously not that. Let's see. That could be it, but I'm thinking about July 5th. Okay, hold on. I want to say that was the first one. It could be the April 16th one, but I doubt it. Come on. Okay, so while that's loading up, we'll go back to the page and finish up the article. Sorry, y'all, I didn't mean to do that in y'all ear. Like other organizations, mutual aid societies required respectable and law-abiding behavior from members as a way they could prove African Americans' suitability for American citizenship. However, many African-born Americans expressed their desire to emigrate to Africa. Not me. Not me. Come on now. Okay. During 1790s and early 1800s, members of the societies in Newport, Providence, Boston, Philadelphia, carried on a correspondence promoting that possibility. Newport Gardner encouraged immigration plans by Paul Cuffey, Massachusetts African-American Quaker sea captain in early 1816. Cuff successfully transported 34 black American settlers to the British colony of Sierra Leone. Finally, in early 1826, nearly 10 years after Cuffey's death, 80-year-old Newport Gardner and a fellow society member, 70-year-old Salmar Nubia, were two of at least 32 African-American emigrants who landed in Liberia, a colony sponsored by the American Colonization Society. We know about them. And both Gardner and Nubia died a few months after their arrival in Africa. So, concern for members' moral and spiritual well-being, mutual aid societies were very often the seeds of black churches and schools for African-American children. Like most community organizations, they work for the abolition of slavery. Okay, they created networks linking urban black communities in anti-slavery work and providing information about education and employment. Mutual aid societies compensated for some of the discrimination black Americans face, expressed the values of members' cultural heritage, and answered the needs of their communities. So again, this is what mutual aid society is all about. Now, I was with them until the whole going to Africa stuff. Now, I'm all about free will. I'm all about free will. If you guys want to go to Africa, that's your own prerogative. That's your own prerogative. You can do whatever you want. We talked about that already. So this right here is another primary source from W.E.B. Du Bois, and it's titled "Some Efforts of American Negroes for Their Social Betterment." It's a short read. It's only about 35 pages. Well, we could just look at the table of contents here. Okay, see what we got. All right. So, one, results of the investigation, the scope of the inquiry, general character of the organizations. We'll go to that one in just a second. The church, the secret society, beneficial and insurance societies, cooperative business, benevolence, general summary. So listen, we know that when it comes to the beef, your Tupac Biggie, your Jay-Z Nas, your Drake Kendrick, your Booker T. Washington, and W.E.B. Du Bois, I'm going to be more partial to Booker T. Washington. That does not mean, and I mean this, I want y'all to hear me, that does not mean that W.E.B. Du Bois didn't do anything. Okay? W.E.B. Du Bois' studies I cite all of the time. He was a sociologist, so it was a lot of on-the-ground work that he did that is like super integral to my studies. So did this load up yet? It didn't load up. Like, what is going on? Cause we're gonna just dub it. But I want y'all to know, like, when it comes down to the ancestors, yo, you literally have the choice. I mean, that goes with anything. You have the ability to pick and choose the ideologies, the methods, and whatever of whoever you want. So if you like Booker T. Washington's ideas on X, and you like W.E.B. Du Bois's ideas on Y, you can combine them, G. You don't have to be like, oh, since they had, opposing views of each other and stuff like that, then I can't do both. You can 100% do both. W.E.B. Du Bois was an intellectual. W.E.B. Du Bois 100% in his own way wanted the advancement of black America. Why are we lagging? I hope I'm not lagging on y'all. I'm not getting any comments about it lagging. But it's cool. It's cool. We're going to be getting out of here in a little bit anyway. I wanted to keep, my streams nice and concise. We don't need to be on stream for 5 hours and all of that. They gonna freeze me? They just froze me on the screen. So while this is getting taken care of, let's see. Let's check the chat. Anybody else in the chat? Okay. Oh, it's all good, y'all. I don't know if y'all could have Googled it, but it's fine. We're gonna get some engagement out of y'all. See, luckily, I'm not one of them people that give up easy. So, I understand that I'm working for everything that I have. That's how it always been. So listen, we're gonna get more and more engagement. We're gonna get more and more people in here. I'm telling y'all, I'm not discouraged whatsoever. I'm actually even it really pushes me to go even harder, to be honest with y'all. When stuff like this happens, where I gotta just go on the fly and be able to, like I said, build my wings. Now that's cool. I don't see anybody in the kick chat. Let me see. I don't see anybody in the kick chat. So let me go up in here, see what we got. Oh, did the stream end on kick, y'all? Did the stream end? It can't be. Let's see. Oh, tripping. So it's okay. There we go. All right, the stream is still going. All right, cool. My fault, y'all. My fault. Cause I was looking like, yo, where's the chat at? But when I was looking at it, it was on the wrong page. So here we go. Let's see. Great question. CW said, were there people who wasn't in these sororities and organizations who did a lot for the community? I'm sure. It's just that you're not going to see too many people. You're not going to see many people doing stuff that wasn't a part of something. They'll be a part of the church. They'll be a part of an organization and stuff like that. Because again, when it comes down to Black American advancement, we just understood that we couldn't do this stuff alone. So you'll have individuals like Joseph H. Jackson. Joseph H. Jackson, he was a minister. You dig what I'm saying? He was a minister. So his church would be, I guess, his organization. So you'll have people like that. We talked about S.D. Redmond. S.D. Redmond, I don't know of him being a part of any fraternity or, organization or society, anything like that. So Sammy also says in the kick chat, these gradual emancipations were prevalent in all of the states after. These were prevalent in all these states after 1864. It's a lot of questions. So yeah, for sure. So it's the gradual emancipation acts were largely up north, and honestly, to be totally G with y'all, the North was looking to like abolish slavery as early as the 1700s, like before the United States was even born. People were trying to petition against the government. You dig? So that's the reason why, like, when it comes to up north, you have a lot of the ancestors fleeing up north even before the Great Migration, because they understood that there were a lot more sympathetic to Black American slaves and stuff like that. So up north, your New Englands, your New York, New Jersey, like I said, all of those different states up north, Maine, those states are going to be, almost safe havens for Black Americans, because they all, from the beginning, since the colonies, they were against slavery. Shit, when I was learning about Giles B. Jackson in his book, he was talking about how this is how slavery started in Georgia. So slavery was outlawed in Georgia up until it was like the mid of the 18th century. So they were against it. However, their neighbor, South Carolina, was making a lot of money from rice, sugar, tobacco. And they saw how they were making all of this money in South Carolina. And it was due to the slaves. Now we know that the West Africans who came here, who then became the Gullah Geechee people, they brought with them rice. And rice cultivation was huge in South Carolina. As a matter of fact, there are brands to this very day like Carolina Rice that's based upon that history. So you had Black Americans who literally created rice cultivation in this country. So Georgia is looking at South Carolina being like, damn, they making money. Because again, these states, just like today still, like, you have to make sure that your state is good. While the country may be good or the country may be bad, you can absolutely build your state up. And so South Carolina was obviously making money hand over fist due to their slave force. And Georgia had to, they held out for as long as they, felt like they could. But they folded. Yeah, we need slaves. We need to cop some slaves because South Carolina is booming and we next door neighbors. So let's see. Sammy also says modern life insurance was copy and pasted from black mutual aid societies. Pretty much. Yep, pretty much. The oldest black American life insurance company is North Carolina Mutual Aid Life Insurance Company. Like, that's the name of it. Let's see. We can use one of these tabs. NC Mutuals. Yep. NC Mutual Life. There we go. So North Carolina Mutual. And this is the history of it. This website is old. Well, it can't be old. It's only a year old. But yeah, NC Mutual Insurance Company. So again, like these institutions still live on to this very day. Still exist to this very day. Did they sell? Maybe. I gotta look into it. But yeah, here it is right here. Yep, y'all gotta check out that book. Y'all gotta check out that book, the Giles B. Jackson book, and I'll link y'all to it in just a second. But here we go. Originally, the North Carolina Mutual and Provident Association, and later the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company, was an American life insurance company located downtown Durham, North Carolina, one of the most influential African American businesses in the United States history. Founded in 1898 by local black social leaders, its business increased from less than $1,000 in income in 1899 to $250,000 in 1910. The company specialized in industrial insurance, which was basically burial insurance. The company hired salesmen whose main job was to collect small payments of about 10 cents to cover the insured person for the next week. If the person died while insured, the company immediately paid benefits of about $100. This covered the cost of a suitable funeral, which was of high prestige high prestige item in the black community. You see what I'm saying? So this is important. This is history. This is where y'all come from. Our some of the first businesses and all of our first associations, societies, organizations, etc., were for the advancement and the protection and of course the burial of our fellow man, taking care of the widows, taking care of the orphan children. You had some mutual aid societies, and I wish I could show you, but the archives are down right now. But you had mutual aid societies that would give you loans for businesses. They would give you loans for land. They were the precursors to the financial institutions that we have. Life insurance is considered a financial institution. Banks, savings and loans, like these are all black American institutions because we understood that economics, you can't do anything without economics in this country. You need economics. Point blank, period. So, that's about it. It began operations in the new tobacco manufacturing city of Durham, and then moved north into Virginia and Maryland, and then to major northern black urban centers, and then to the rest of the urban South. This is, considered one of the first businesses, let's see. Yeah. In American history, black American history. So yeah, he was a mulatto. John C. Merrick. He grew up in Raleigh and Chapel Hill. Shout out to Raleigh. I lived out there for a little bit. So yeah, Mutual Life Insurance Company. There we go. We gotta close these as we go. So in W.E.B. Du Bois's, like I was saying, when it came down to him, his sociology, let me show y'all some of the work that he did. This is what he did by hand. Look at this. He did this stuff by hand. When he was studying the black population in Philadelphia, this is what he was he would do these things to show people about, Black America. Let's check the chat. Economics is always a two-edged sword. Solves poverty and crime, cuts both ways. Yep. I'm trying to tell y'all, yo, like, once you get your economics right, the rest will follow. The rest will follow. All right. So make sure y'all understand that. So yeah. This is from the exhibited of the 1900 exposition in Paris. I got a whole video on that. I have a whole video on the 1900 Paris exposition on the Patreon, patreon.com/Hotep history. But look, these are literal infographics that he created. He did these by hand. Cannot take away the work that he did. I may disagree with him with a lot of stuff, but this is the stuff that he was doing. This is incredible work. Dig? So, while I may disagree with a lot, you can't deny the man's work. You can't deny the man's work. You can't deny what he actually did. So, yeah, that's W.E.B. Du Bois. So, going back to his book, here we go. Let's see. Let's go to the secret societies. Let's see. Because we kind of touched on the organizations, the general character of them. So let's go to the secret societies. That would be page 12. I'm going to see what W.E.B. Du Bois had to say. Let's see. If I'm lagging, forgive me, y'all. We're going to be getting up out of here in a little bit anyway. I just wanted to see what W.E.B. Du Bois had to say about the secret societies, because I have an entire video coming out about this. That's actually, spoiler, episode 6. Episode 6 is all about the Black American Fraternal Orders, the Black American Mutual Aid Societies, and the Black American Secret Societies. So let's see. This is page 12. Why is it not showing me? You can zoom in. Boop, boop, doo, 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 doo. Oh, here we go. The Secret Society. 92 lodges belonging to 9 different secret societies were reported, although these by no means cover all existent lodges in the city's study. I ain't gonna hold y'all. Ain't a slight against William, good old William, but he be misspelling a lot of words. I peeped that. It'd be a lot of typos with him. I don't know if that's just the way words were spelled back then and they just changed over time, but just when I be reading his books, I be seeing a lot of typos. But I digress. So here we go. Those reported were the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows, 38 lodges, Ancient Order of Free and Accepted Masons, 13 lodges, Grand United Order of True Reformers. Shout out to my man Reverend Brown. You feel me? Out in Richmond, Virginia, famously loaned the Richmond School Board $100,000 during the bank panic of 1893. All of the white banks was broke. Had to come to the black man, to bail out the school board. There was no education in Richmond, the whole city, without a black man in his organization. And of course, his organization was the Grand United Order of the True Reformers. You dig? So shout out to Reverend Brown, Reverend William Brown. Who else we got? International Order of Good Samaritans, J.R. Giddings and the Jolliffe Union, Independent Order of St. Luke. Shout out to Maggie Walker, Ancient Sons, etc. of Israel. Because I'm pretty sure he put etc. because the ancestors love to listen. Y'all think I like the yap? That's how I know I would have been all right. I would have been all right in the 19th century. Honestly, I would have been all right because the titles of these books were super long. The length of the books was super long. All the ancestors did was run their mouth, and I'm in good company. You feel me? It's been 2.5 hours almost, and I don't feel fatigued at all. I can go another 2.5. It's just that I'm not gonna bore y'all. You feel me? So Yeah. The title, they were just like, yo, ancient sons, etc. of Israel. Because I know in between ancient sons and of Israel is probably long as hell. Let's see. Ancient sons of Israel. Let's see how long the actual name is. Hold on, let's go to all. Ah, come on with the freezing. That's how I know. That's how I know. Okay. Ancient sons of Israel. No, obviously not. Let's see. Look at them lying. You see what I'll be telling y'all about um with the AI? Look at this. There isn't an Ancient Sons of Israel fraternity. You see what I be talking about, yo? They just be lying. That's why I don't be listening to AI, bro. I tell AI exactly what I need from it. Give me primary sources on X, Y, and Z. Because if I go off of what they be talking about, let's see. What would be another one? Ancient Sons, Israel. Cause they hit me with Israel like the country of Israel. See, Ancient Sons. Okay, Ancient Sons, Fraternal Order. There is no widely known for. Oh my goodness, AI be killing me, bro. It's a lie. I'm looking at a primary source. It says it right here. Ancient Sons. I know that it exists. It had 3 tabernacles. But now AI in the 21st century is trying to tell me that it didn't exist. This is what I be talking about. This is what I be talking about. So this is why I don't use the AI, bro. They just be dead lying. No, we gonna find this, son. Is it this? The Ancient United Order of Sons? Let's see. Of Moses, because this would be a long enough name for him to put the etc. Founded in 1867. Ancient Order, Ancient United Order of Sons and Daughters, Brothers and Sisters of Moses. That sounds closer to what I'm looking for than AI telling me that shit didn't exist. Okay. So Ancient Sons, Fraternal Society. Let's see. Oriental Sons? Nah, not that. Anyway, let's get back to the book. Scrolling on down. See what else he had to say about him. Was that all he had to say? Oh, jeez. See, this is what I be talking about when it comes to his work. Like, he's doing all of this data input. Like, he's the one. Hold on, let's try to get it. Come on. There we go. Negro secret societies in southern cities. Oh my goodness. Look at all of these different groups, y'all. There's a lot of these I've never even heard of. Star of the West, Bloom of Youth, Rising Sun, Free Grace, Mount Olive, John F. Cook, I heard of him. Eastern Stars, heard of them. Potomac Union, never heard of them. And True Reformers, okay. This stuff is super interesting, y'all. And he calculating the bread, all of that stuff. See, this is what I be talking about. Like, I really truly believe that W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington were better together than apart, because they both had qualities that could have been used. But unfortunately, W.E.B. Du Bois was just a little bit too sensitive at the time. So yeah, he's okay. So this book is more about data, because that's what he was good at that. But W.E.B. Du Bois, can't lie about it, he was great at as data at data aggregating. He'd get a lot of numbers for you and stuff like that, and he would do the on the ground research to get those numbers back to you. So shout out to W.E.B. Du Bois for that. His sociology work is definitely respected over here. Let's flip this back to where it needs to be. Okay. Beneficial and insurance. So this is more of the stuff that we've been learning tonight. The beneficial society sprang differently from the church organizations and has developed in four characteristic directions. First, by taking on ritual, oaths, and secrecy, it became the secret society just mentioned. Secondly, by emphasizing and enlarging the beneficial and insurance feature and substituting a board of directors for general membership control. So many of these societies coalesced into or were replaced by insurance societies. Thirdly, the training in business methods thus received is now, in an increasing number of cases, leading to cooperative business enterprises. Okay. Fourthly, let's go into that one, y'all. That's what we're going to end on, the business enterprise. I want to see how they were able to build businesses from it, because we know how they build banks. So I know they're going to get into that. Fourthly, the distribution of aid in succor tended to it got to be succor, tended to pass beyond the immediately contributing members and become pure charity in the shape of homes, asylums, and benevolent societies of various sorts. In number of organizations, the secret societies outstrip the benevolent societies, while the others naturally are still but partially developed. Nevertheless, the beneficial society antedates emancipation. Means that it comes before emancipation. Some now in existence are 50 years old or more, and others are now extinct, can be traced back to the 18th century. 1700s. These societies of all kinds, sizes, and states of efficiency are still very numerous. Take, for instance, Petersburg, Virginia. There alone, we have reports from 22 as follows. But I want to go to the chapter that was talking about businesses. So, yeah. Let's go back to the table of contents real quick. Zoom out. Because I think I want to hear about how they conducted business. Because at that point, I think we touched everything we need to touch about this. And please believe episode 6 is going to be chock full of this stuff. Chock full of this stuff. Oh, Sammy, you corrected me. So it was July 5th, 1827. Okay, it was an Emancipation Day primarily observed by black New Yorkers to celebrate the end of slavery in New York. There you go. Yep. So is chapter 6, cooperative business. Let's get into that, and then we'll be out of here. So, you know, it'd be so funny if I just left the page. So be page 21. Page 21. Come on now. Let's get there. We're almost there. Almost there. Shout out to The Princess and the Frog. I don't know if y'all did, but my daughter, she had me watch that movie 1,000,000 times. That was her jam. Princess Tiana. So here we go. Cooperative business. Come on, let's get it all the way. Let's go to, yeah. There we go. Zoom in. I'm not squinting. You know. There are undoubted proofs that the native Africans, or at least most Negro tribes, are born merchants and traffickers and can drive good bargains even with the Europeans. Little trace of this, however, survived the fire of American slavery. Okay, hold on now. Communism in goods, abolition of private property, and absolute dependence on the master. Oh, okay, they're talking about slavery. For daily bread, almost completely robbed the slaves of all thought of economic initiative. Okay, business enterprise would therefore be the last form of activity which we might expect to see recover from the effects of slavery, even under normal conditions. The situation today is, however, abnormal. From the fact that the white South is making unusual strides in commercial life, and so on, sooner has the Negro learned something of the business methods about him, than further advance on the part of the community has rendered them obsolete. Okay, scroll down some more. There are two ways in which primitive folk may establish cooperative business effort. First, by the establishment of private business enterprise and then combining the single business into one joint stock company, or by beginning directly with cooperation and either developing into a less democratic form of directorship or disintegrating into private enterprise. Negro cooperation has thus far been largely of the latter type. For instance, opposite the campus of the Atlanta University has stood for a long time an unsightly old tumble-down dwelling. That's it. Last year of unsightly old tumble-down dwelling. Last year, a small group of Negroes bought it. They met for a while in it, formed an organization, moved the building back, and prepared to build. Okay. By regular contributions, they began a fund which supported a leader with a salary. They hired laborers and masons from their own number, and with their own labor have now nearly finished a tasteful brick building. Wow, there we go. This organization was a church, but its activity has been so far cooperative business, democratic in direction, and peculiarly successful. All right. From such enterprises sprang the beneficial societies. And today, I just want to finish that. And today what? And today what, William? And today, with difficulty, is a rising free cooperative business enterprise detached from religious activity or insurance. On the other hand, private business enterprise has made some beginning, and in few cases united into joint stock enterprises. Okay, that's what's up. I gotta see what year this was made. It will be years, however, before this kind of business is very successful. Indeed, all cooperation in business among Negroes is as yet in the experimental stage. For that reason, it is especially mentioned in this study, since it represents not so much private gain as a social effort for the good of the group. Okay, that's fair. Of the 15 enterprises reported in the next table, probably not more than 10 are at present paying enterprises, and some of these are only modestly successful. The rest are either just making ends meet with the prospect of future growth, or are tottering and destined to fail. The cities reporting are not in all cases identical with 9, which sent. I'm sorry, y'all, because it's the typing. Which sent in other reports. Of those, only 4 reported cooperative businesses. Okay, then he goes into the business. Okay. So, what did we learn today, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we learned that when it comes to Black American advancement, you can't have it without Black American participation. You're not getting it from an outside source. You're not going to be able to, even get a modicum of whatever you think you're going to get as far as a collective without everybody, or at least everybody who wants the advancement, to chip in, contribute, help where they can. We also understand that group economics and working together, enterprising with one another, is extremely important. We also understand that, being self-reliant, self-sufficient, and all that stuff is extremely important. But we also understand that you are going to need to help your fellow man, your fellow woman, your fellow child out there. It's extremely important that you guys understand that we have not gotten to this point alone. We have not gotten to 2025 with all of the technology that we have, with all the advancements that we have, without Black American men, Black American women, and Black American children all working together for the greater good. We all want the crime to go down. We all want the literacy rates to go up. We all want the math skills to go up. We all want everything that has been due to us, to be honest. But we have to be the ones to bring it to fruition. Period. And so if we are going to, be serious about Black American advancement, then we have to be serious about the work that we have to put in on an individual level and as a collective level to make that happen. I understand about government opposition. I understand about racism, discrimination, and all these other things. However, we have not dealt with anything that was even from the century that we live in. All of these books, all of these primary sources that I shared tonight are coming from the 19th and the 20th century. So that's over the course of 200 years. And honestly, that's not even true because we went even further back to the 18th century. So from the 18th century to the 20th century, talking about, hundreds of years, fam. And so y'all have to understand that these are tried and true methods. They stand the test of time. The only thing that can kill them is the lack of Black American participation. The ancestral Black American ethos is literally infallible. You can't kill it. You can kill a Black American, but you can't kill the ethos of the Black American. You can't kill the spirit. You can't kill where you come from. You can't kill history. It's impossible. So no matter what, no matter when, no matter how, as long as we are understanding of history, we'll always have the solutions. All of the solutions for Black Americans that we, want in 2025 are in the archives from 1825, 1725, 1925. Just go back and read the archives. That's what we do here at Hotep History. So it's extremely important that you guys know that we're not going to get anywhere as a collective without us coming together. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is be able to incentivize each other to support each other. And I'm not asking you guys to pull teeth. That's why I tell y'all all the time to find your tribe. I found mine. I actually created mine with my brothers. Hotep Jesus, Uncle Hotep. We created Hotep Nation for this very reason. Because whenever I come to HJ, whenever I come to Cannon, whenever I come to Uncle Hotep, they understand exactly what I'm speaking. They understand my language. I understand theirs. And so Hotep Nation, you will see us in the history books. First of all, they have a literal, they have a historian on tap. So just believe, you know what I mean? They're going to be in the history books. And it makes me wonder, like, if you were a friend of like Carter G. Woodson, you dig what I'm saying? Or my man Pennington, I forgot his first name, JC or JW, WC Pennington. If like you were friends with a historian, would they just put you in the history books? You feel me? Because I know I'm putting my friends in the history books. They got to be worthy of being put in the history books, but I know I'm putting them in there. So yeah, like I'm going to make sure Hotep Nation is obviously in the history books, but we are actually doing historic work. And so I implore you guys to do something historic in your life. Do something that is actually going to benefit, not only yourself, not only your family, but the greater collective of your people. I challenge you guys to, always learn something new every day, but I am going to challenge you guys to be historic. Do something historic in your life. Do something worthy of note. Do something that kids 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 200 years from now should be reading about when it comes to you. Because there's going to be a young man and a young woman, young men and young women just like me who are going to uncover, your contributions. So I appreciate you guys for tapping into the stream. We will be on Kick only as far as the streams. I say again, Kick only. So make sure you guys are subscribing to the kick.com/Hotep History. Just go to the app, download the app, search Hotep History. You'll see the logo. Go ahead and follow me. Since I started telling you guys to follow me, I think I've gained like about 10, 11 followers and all of that. So it's a slow grind. Don't I'm here for the work. But make sure you guys are subscribing to Kick. Make sure you guys are going to be active here in the chat. Shout out to Sammy, really holding me down in the chat and Kick. Shout out again to everybody that came through on YouTube: Memphis, Nikki, Vincent, Tori, Sway. Of course, man, I appreciate you guys. And as you know what I always say: you can't have the future without the present. You can't have the present without the past. And we don't study history to live in the past, but we do it to order our steps in the present so we can positively affect our future. Okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you guys on the next one. And as always, Hotep and Bill, man.